I like Niranjan. This podcast is about Maha Mritunjaya Mantra. The other day we were discussing about that. So, first let me chant the mantra, then I will translate as it is, then I will give my interpretation and insights on that. So, first the chanting. Om Try-Ambakam Yajaamahe Sugandhim Pusstti-Vardhanam Urvaarukam-Iva Bandhanaan Mrtyor-Mukksiiya Maa mrtaat. This is the mantra. Now the translation as it is. I am contemplating on the third-eyed one who is like fragrance in the flowers nourishing all the beings. Like how a cucumber cuts off itself from its creeping cord, let me cut off from my bandhas, and so I may be liberated from death, and let I remain in the immortality. This is the translation as it is. Before getting into my own interpretation, my views about the mantra, let me tell you this the general understanding about this mantra, that people think, many of us think that this mantra is for, we have to chant this mantra for good health and to avoid untimely death and all that stuff, And we used to chant this mantra before stepping out of our house. I used to do that. And we can see this mantra chanted in many yajnas, when the pandits are starting the yajnas, or when they are doing the yajnas, this mantra is chanted. As the name says, it is Maha Mritunjaya Mantra. The meaning of this is, Mrit means death. We can take that death. Mritunjaya means winning the death. So this mantra is a Maha Mantra to win the death. That is the title says. Okay. So now, because of this title given to this mantra, the whole meaning got changed actually. So let me explain my views about this mantra, and this is the meaning of this mantra, because I'm sharing my view from the Vedas that I read. According to the Upanishads and Vedanta, this is the meaning of this mantra. Okay, let me explain the meaning of this mantra. That the first line says, Om Try-Ambakam Yajaamahe. That is, we are contemplating on the third-eyed one. Try-Ambaka is the third-eyed one. Here, when we say third-eyed one, we always think that it is Shiva, because our Shiva only got the third eye, right? So the first line says, I'm contemplating on the third-eyed one. And the second line says, who is like a fragrance in the flowers, nourishing all the beings. The flowers got fragrance. It is invisible, but still it is, it is there. Like that, Shiva, the third-eyed one, I'm explaining the mantra, then I will give my interpretation. So, like the fragrance in the flower, which is invisible, like that, Shiva, the invisible energy, the invisible force that nourishes all the beings. And the third line says, like how a cucumber cuts off itself from its creeping cord, let me cut off from my bandhas. So the third line says, like how a cucumber cuts off from its creeping cord, like that, take me out, cut me off from all the bandhas. And when we say bandhas, people usually say that from the worldly affairs, family, that, this, business, or whatever. We call it as bandhas, right? That is what people are saying here. And the fourth line says, and cutting off me from all the bandhas so that I may be liberated from death and I will be in immortality. That is the last line. Mrtyor-Mukssiiya Maa. That is the last line. So this is the general understanding and explanation about the mantra. But the actual meaning of this is, I am contemplating on the third-eyed one. That means our existence is on three levels. The one is Jagrat, the second one is Sushupti, the third one is Turiya. See, between the first and the second, which is that the Jagrat, that is awakened state, and between the deep sleep, there is one more state that is called Swapna, the dream state. So these are the levels of consciousness we are going through every day, the state of consciousness. That when we are awake, our consciousness is fully functional through our senses, the five senses: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touch, sensation, all these, the five senses, all these are the five senses. And our consciousness is working through the five senses, and we are identifying ourselves as so-and-so. And, this is called the Jagrat, or the awakened state. And then we are going to sleep. Every day this is happening. We are awake, then we are going to sleep. So when we go to sleep, we will get dream, which is called the state of Swapna, where our own mind will manifest different objects or persons, animals or whatever. In the dream, we may see an elephant, we may see an elephant, we may see a lion. It's all our own manifestation. It is us getting manifested as elephant or a lion, or we may see Kailash, or we may say Himalayas, we may see Shirdi or whatever. It is all our own mental manifestation. This is the dream state that is called Swapna. And there is another state called Sushupti, or deep sleep, where we don't have anything. We will have the experience of blankness, because there is no memory of what happened during the state of deep sleep. So this state of deep sleep is called Sushupti. And the final one is called Turiya, which is beyond all this, which is called the state of Brahma, or the Parabrahma, the absolute truth, or absolute eternity, or absolute eternal thing. So these are the states. So cutting down the state of Swapna, the mantra says there are three states, which is said like Try-Ambaka. That is the awakened state, the deep sleep of Sushupti, and then the Turiya. Okay? In all this state, what is there is the absolute being. We call it as Shiva, or God, or Parabrahma. So the first line says, let us contemplate on the thing which is there in all these three existence, which is there in all this three state of consciousness, which is the Parabrahm. So let us contemplate on the Parabrahm, which is like a fragrance in the flower, which is there everywhere in all the beings. Right? The Parabrahm is there everywhere. So like a fragrance in a flower. That's what the second line says. So I am contemplating on the state which is in all the three states, like a fragrance in flower which is in all the living beings. I am contemplating on that. This is the first and second line. And the third line says, from these many bondages, that is like how a cucumber cuts off itself from its creeping cord. Like that, cut me off from the bandhas. That is here, bandhas means our own identity, our own senses. Because these five senses, seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, tasting, these are the five senses through which we gather information about ourselves. From the day we born, when we are growing up with all these senses, and we have the idea of what we are. Because of these senses, we are gathering data, and we are storing data in ourselves, And sorry about the dog barking here. It's a lot of dogs here. So these are the doorways that through which we gather and accumulate lot of data. This data is nothing but the karmas. There are 3 karmas, now past, present, and future. So these are the karmas we accumulate through these 5 gateways, senses. And these are called bandhas. So the third line goes on, says like how cucumber is getting cut off. The same way, let me cut off from my senses, okay, so that I can realize the truth of what I am. This will keep me in the state of immortality. So this state of immortality means jnana. Here, immortality should be considered as the Brahma Jnana or Jnana, and death should be considered as darkness or Ajnana. So it is a metaphor used in the mantra that death means darkness or Ajnana. See, because a person with Ajnana is considered as a corpse, a dead, according to the Vedanta, because we are, though living, we are living dead. If we are fully loaded with Ajnana, then according to the Vedanta, we are a corpse, a dead fellow. So the essence of this mantra is not to keep ourselves in immortality. Here the immortality is nothing but the jnana or the Brahma Jnana. So that is what, when we attain the Brahma Jnana or the jnana, that way we are wiping out the darkness which is considered as the death. So that way we become immortal. Okay, the state of which we call it as the samadhi, or we become the one with the ultimate truth. In that, we are getting liberated from the darkness, death, or ajnana. So this is the essence of this mantra. But the mantra is compiled in such a way, the scale, because in previous podcasts also I told you, Sanskritam is so beautiful, so powerful. If it is chanted in a right scale, it will has its own effect. So the meaning of the Maha Mritunjaya Mantra is this. But if we are chanting that in a proper way with the right scales, then the mantra will have its own effect. So as many of our Sai family members said, this mantra is for the self-realization. This shows the importance and significance of self-realization. By self-realization, by attaining the Atmanyan, Brahmajnan, many of our ailments, physical and emotional ailments, will be cleared. That is what the very objective of this mantra, and that is why it got a very beautiful name, Maha Mritunjaya Mantra. That is winning the Ajnana. Here Mritya means Ajnana, we should not take that as death. It is Mritya means here we have to consider as Ajnana, that is considered as darkness also. It is a metaphor used as a death. So this is Maha Mritunjaya Mantra, that is winning the darkness or winning the Ajnana. That way we will be always in the state of Amrita, that is state of immortality, that is knowing the truth and remaining in truth and become one with the truth. Jai Sainath.